with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thanks, Rob. All right, I think it's time for a roll call. Jared, if you would, please.
Bart Barker.
Here.
Tammy Blank.
Here.
Cinda Brode.
Jared, I'm here. If you said my name, I didn't hear you. This is Cinda.
Okay, thank you. Julia Markey Kukro.
Present.
Tom Harley.
Here.
Mr. Kerr.
Present.
Mrs. Leeper. Mrs. Lowry.
Present.
Mr. Schroeder.
Here. Okay, I believe that completes the roll call. Jared, do we have anybody signed up for public comment tonight?
We had one, sir, Josie Cunningham.
Josie,
Excuse me, Walter, should I go ahead?
Yes.
I would like to thank the board and the superintendent for the fluidity of their planning concerning this COVID pandemic. I understand that the governor has issued, I saw Superintendent Vukovic's statement. The government has issued that we are in a moderate area, which means we could either go yellow or red. Caution is what's necessary. We've never experienced this before. In the latest reports in the news, 97,000 school-age children have been infected in the last 2 weeks of July, and we're only in the second week of August. So that is something that is troublesome. The other thing that is concerning is that when children do get infected, they suffer it's called the long haul syndrome. And I know that we're concerned about that. There will be concern within the community, I am quite sure, about childcare, etc. I think that is something that the district has worked hard to help plan ahead with. I just need to say, this is a historical time. There is no set plan. There can't be, and it must be fluid, and we must not overly react, and yet we still must remain cautious. So I'm glad that you're doing all that you can do, and I understand that it is not an easy task, and there will be those who are very supportive of your moves and some who will be very vocal. But I really do think that we move with caution. It is for the good of the whole community. Thank you so much.
Okay, Josie, thank you. I neglected to welcome everybody tonight to the meeting, and as Josie had pointed out in her public comment, there's a lot of things that are happening, and I believe Mike will cover most of that in his superintendent's report a little further down. Is there anybody here from the IAE, ASME, SGA, or Stuka tonight? Nothing heard at this point in time. Mike, it's your turn with the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd like to welcome all of our guests to tonight's meeting. I know my email correspondence earlier caused a lot of emotions and frustration based on the governor's recommendations. And again, they are exactly that, recommendations. What we thought was prudent at that time, I still stand behind that, Mr. President, and the community, is to notify our families right away of his recommendations, let them know that it could have impact on us and that we are currently looking at different options for opening the school year based upon that recommendation, based upon those metrics. I would say respectfully that those recommendations, those metrics in June would have been helpful for us to build our plan. We built a plan that was based on flexibility, and we're still in adherence to our plan. Instead of using low, moderate, or I think severe or substantial, it's similar to that of our red, yellow, green. But based upon that data, based upon those metrics, we now have to take those things in consideration. And we have some work to do, Mr. President. We have some work to do to follow up with PDE, get clarity. We have some work to do with the IU-28 and our sister schools here in Indiana County, see how it impacts everyone. And we're going to need time to plan. We're going to use the next several days now to look at what we planned, look at what we have to re-engineer, and come forward with another committee meeting to talk about these issues publicly. And I apologize for all the meetings. I apologize for all the emails to our families, but we stand behind the fact that we value transparency. We want them to understand what we're going through. And these recommendations came down at noon today. I wasn't expecting it. We weren't ready for it, but now we have to go and respond accordingly to those recommendations, review them, get the clarity that we need to seek, and make sure we communicate more with our families and clearer so they understand now what the hybrid looks like, what our different options may look like, and we have some work to do. And my goal tonight, Mr. President, community, is not to go through all of them because we just got the information today at 12, and we're still vetting it. We're still trying to get some clarity. But in the next several days, we'll be working. We're compiling a group of teachers and administrators to look at our options starting as early tomorrow, and we have a responsibility to get back in touch with our parents as soon as possible. The hard part is, sir, we need to get some questions answered, and we're going to seek some clarity so that when we do communicate, it's official. I understand the frustration and perhaps disappointment or whatever emotions are going through, and we shouldn't mitigate that at all. We shouldn't ignore that from families, and I'm here to take that. And if they want to call me and express their concerns, they should. And we have to be there to be good listeners because I think we're all frustrated. We're all going a lot of different directions, but right now we're going to do the best we can to meet the moment based on the recommendations that the governor's set forth. We're going to do our best to communicate with families as soon as we can. And you have our word. We're going to continue to work with our child care providers to make sure they're aware of it. And we recognize fully that the recommendations coming down, how the impact they could have on our families and that will have on our families. And we're going to do our best we can to help alleviate that. We took the synchronized learning suggestions and feedback quite seriously. We're going to follow through on that. And our teachers have been great, really working with us, try to figure out what is best for everyone as far as how we deliver this. So there's a lot of work to be done, Mr. President, board, and community members. But again, we just found this out at noon today. And again, these are recommendations, and we're going to move forward, try to meet that moment the best we can, depending on based on the measures and metrics they put forward. And in closing, sir, as much as this situation has changed over the last several months, I just want to read my sympathy, empathy for everyone's frustration and emotions, and that what everyone's going through. We're all sharing that, and we got to do the best we can to meet that moment and do the best we can to review those recommendations, get clarity, and build a plan as reflective of those recommendations. And that's what we'll do, sir. And I apologize for all the angst. I apologize for all the hurt. We thought we had a plan in place, and now things may have to change, and we're going to do our best to accommodate and meet that. And we need time to process right now. We need time to review, and we are going to try to get some clarity to the best of our ability, sir, and we're working towards it. Again, I apologize for all the frustration. I apologize for the many more emails or correspondence that are going to come out, but we think we need to over-communicate with our families. At this point, clarify the options, what it looks like moving forward, so they feel comfortable and they feel knowledgeable about what the reopening now will look like based on their recommendation today. With that said, sir, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Okay, Mike, I'll certainly agree with you in the frustration that everyone is feeling on this. And again, the only thing I would ask the public is to allow Mike and his team the opportunity to try to vet this out to the best of our abilities, so that we can take care of the education needs of all of our students. Ron, I think the solicitor's report is next. You're up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I give just a small update on Title IX, I have to reiterate some of the comments that Mr. Vukovic suggested here tonight. We just got it at noon, and with 50 different school districts that we represent, it was quite a day from about noon till I joined this meeting. So One thing that I would stress to, again, as you said, the community, the staff, everyone is give us an opportunity to digest and to really respond once we've digested, because as Mike said, they may not be calling it red, yellow, or green, but essentially they've given us same parameters. So that's something we have to look at under our existing model. And I think too, one of the things that came out of these recommendations we got at noon was taking a look at that blended style of learning, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that A or B. So I think that's something the administration and the board will take a look at, because that blended learning could be a scaffold approach, could be different grade levels being differentiated, things of that nature that we could now take a look at. So with that said, every community is going through the same struggle that Indiana Area School District is going through, as far as, again, Franklin County, Huntington County, Blair. So all over, every school district's kind of facing the same issues that we're dealing with currently. With that being said, I don't want to add to the stress that the administration and the board is undergoing right now, but unfortunately, the federal government did pass regulations changing Title IX and its implications for school districts. They've included sexual harassment, which surprisingly was not included specifically within the regulations. It did say sex, but it never actually said sexual harassment. So for that reason, they came out in May 6th. They came out saying that you had to be trained and all of the policies had to be implemented and administered by August 14th. I've already been working with Mr. Vukovic and the administration on those trainings. We actually did a mass training today, and we're doing a follow-up mass training tomorrow. And then we have another one on the 14th to make sure that our districts are up to date on those trainings as soon as possible. But on top of the pandemic and all of the stressors that come with that, we unfortunately have to have those trainings in by August 14th, according to the regulations. So with that being said, for the board and Mr. President, I will be giving a recommendation for a sample motion that I would like the board to at least consider for next meeting, whenever that may be, potentially August 24th. And essentially that motion is going to suggest that the board will adopt all policies, trainings, and materials as required under the new Title IX provisions. And again, I can answer questions on that when we get to that resolution. But I just wanted to throw that out to the board as another update, and unfortunately another mandate that we're going to have to follow. So with that, Mr. President, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, Ron, thank you. Randy, there we go, moving on up. There are no presentations. It looks like item 3, approval of the minutes in the agenda. May I have a motion for those two items, please?
Sure, I move that we approve the minutes of July 27th and the agenda of August 10th.
Second.
Okay, it was moved second and third. So any comments, questions, or discussion on the agenda or the minutes? Okay, we'll again vote in the negative on this case. If you have an objection to this, please say nay or no at this time. Otherwise, the chair will assume that you're voting in favor of it. Nothing heard. Those motions carry. Board reports. Indiana County Technology Center. Uta, your turn.
We meet later on this month, so I don't have a report at this time.
Okay, thank you. And Barb, Aaron, IU28, what's happening there tonight?
We meet next month or next week.
Okay, we'll look for your report at the next meeting. Okay, Tom, looks like academic and extracurricular. Go ahead with your report, sir.
Okay. We had a meeting on August 3rd. I'll jog through this as quick as we can. The committee supports increasing our bandwidth at the district for a cost of $2,400. We made some minor updates on the health and safety plan, and we wanted to make the public aware that it was on on the website. We talked about the IUP nursing agreement. It's a continuation of an existing agreement. The committee supports that motion. We were looking at Title IX training, and I believe some of this is mandatory. The committee supports the motion to fund that training through the Beard Legal Group. We also discussed pre-K enrollment for non-ISAD students, and we supported the administration's motion on that. We talked about the foreign exchange program. We decided that we needed to make a decision on this. The committee is not supporting continuing the foreign exchange program at this time that was previously approved due to the COVID unknowns. Non-agenda items, we discussed synchronous learning, an update on that. We talked about signs and whatnot that would be installed in the buildings, telling people about the do not enter, the masks, and we looked at the town hall meetings, some of which were shared with us, and some were very good. We looked at the flexibility waiver, which the committee supports, giving the administration and the district the utmost flexibility in meeting the 180 days, 990 hours, or 900 hours. We also discussed the update for the athletics extracurricular health and safety plan. I'd like to thank the oversight team for tremendous work on that plan. Really yeoman's work on that plan. We also reviewed the cafeteria and social distancing plans for each building presented by the principals, and discussed how these would be implemented. We discussed software for the junior high school called the Soundtrap for the choral, for the choirs. It's currently in use at the high school. It would be $1,500, and the committee supported that as a motion. The committee discussed the updates surrounding the topic of cyber charters and that expense. We discussed the band and what they were doing, but also on them attempting to get a refund from a trip that didn't come off. And we asked the superintendent to write a letter of support. We also discussed extra time for the counselors, being that we suspect there'll be a need for additional time for the counselors, and that was the meeting. That only took us about 20 minutes. We had over 70 people at the meeting. I was very pleased with how well this Zoom worked for that meeting. For motions, Walter, we have a motion here, 5-2. I'm going to slough that off on Uta. That's more of a policy personnel for Uta to take on. And so we have 5-3, which is a clinical experience agreement.
Wait, Tom.
Yes, ma'am.
You're recommending that 5-2 go back to committee, right?
I was just going to have you talk about it to make the motion. Can you
Okay.
tell me? Yeah, this attendance and guidelines did not come through the academic committee, and it'd be better in Uta's committee. So Uta, I'll have you deal with that motion if you would when you come up. So 5-3, 5-4. 5-3 is the IUP clinical experience agreement. 5-4 is the mutual aid memorandum of agreement. 5-5 is increased Internet bandwidth. 5-6 is pre-K enrollment guidelines. 5-7 is foreign exchange students. 5-8 is software purchase. And 5-9 is extra guidance counselors. Is there any objection to taking these all at once? Hearing none, consider that to be a motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second to accept 5-3 through 5-9. Is there any discussion from the board members, questions, or additional comments? Mike, at this point, could you maybe talk a little bit about, you or Rob talk a little bit about 5.6, the pre-K enrollment guidelines, and what's happening there?
Yes, sir. I could defer to Rob and Jared. We can all add to this, but basically what's going on here, sir, is that we by state law are allowed to open up our program, pre-K program, to non-district residents to enroll their children in our pre-K program. I think it's a wonderful program that brings a lot of benefit to our families, but I think with regards to the pandemic, people are scared to send their child to pre-K or K at this time. So what this motion does is allow us to keep the program moving forward, but open up our catchment area to include kids from other districts who may want that same opportunity. Jared, anything else you'd like to clarify with that, sir?
Yeah, just our funding to fund the 2 teachers and the aides in that program is based on our student enrollment. So we are not strictly required to take Indiana School District residents. So if we want to maintain the funding, we may have to at some point open the program up to outside residents just to maintain the funding within the program.
And this motion gives us the ability to do that.
Yes.
It does, sir. Yes.
Any other discussion on these motions?
Okay, if any other questions again in discussion as Tom suggested, not hearing any, I think we're ready to vote. Again, we'll vote in the negative. If you wish to vote no on these motions, please say no or nay at this point. The chair will assume that the silence is unanimous approval by all board members present. Okay.
Walter, before we move on, the PIAA asks us to give, we have to give permission to continue sports training. I'd like to make a motion that the board allows the preconditioning training to continue for the until further notice.
Second.
Thank you, Terry.
Okay, I believe that.
Can I,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
can I make a friendly amendment just to clarify that this is voluntary?
Yes, that'd be fine.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Can you read that back in full?
Jared, what do you have?
You were cutting out, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
The board allows the preconditioning voluntary practices to continue as they are currently. This is in response to the PIAA ruling last Thursday, I believe it was.
Are you good, Barb?
Is this an added? I missed
Yes,
something. I'm sorry.
I had asked for it to be put on the agenda, but it slipped off. The PIAA says that if we don't, that we have to give permission to these athletic teams to continue practicing. It says with permission. So this would continue with permission.
So do you need to ask for any comments from the public?
Yeah, Barb, I'll take care of that in just a minute.
That's correct. Sorry.
I do need to clarify. This was because the PIAA delayed the start of the regular season, which sort of created a no man's land, and that's why we have to authorize the continuing for the foreseeable future. At this point, I will go to the public. Is there anybody that would like to make public comment on the motion to continue the voluntary summer conditioning programs as they're currently running? Please say so or indicate in the chat room.
Sir, we do need a second on that motion too.
Terry seconded, Jared.
Yes, Terry did
Okay.
second it. Okay, nothing seen or in the chat room or heard on public comment. Are there additional questions, comments, or discussion by the board members?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Barb.
So there's no games, just conditioning between the members of our community.
Yes, Ms. Barker, my understanding, and I don't want to speak for the subcommittee, but my understanding all this would do is continue allow the summer conditioning to continue. The heat acclimatization would be pushed back 2 weeks, and subsequently the start of the year could be pushed back more. That's my understanding. Wade, Mr. Lozanik, did I misspeak on anything in that one motion or clarifying that?
That's correct, Mr. Vukovic. The PIAA just delayed the start of the regular season of practicing 2 weeks to try to have some time to discuss with the governor's office and the Department of Health on the recommendation that he made, about fall sports. So all this will do is let our extracurriculars continue on as they've been doing for the next 2-week period.
Mr. Macklin, anything you'd like to add to that? So if I'm understanding you correctly, we're looking at continued summer conditioning, no scrimmaging with other teams, no one outside our organization, and just continue as we were until we hear a verdict or edict come from the PLA and the governor's office. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Vukovic.
But the participation is voluntary, not mandatory.
That's correct. Yep. You're absolutely right, Ms. Uta. I apologize for that. You're right.
Okay, last call for any other questions, comments, or discussion on this motion. Nothing heard. Again, we'll vote for this in the negative. If you object to it, please say no or nay at this point in time. Nothing heard. The chair assumes that it passes unanimously for all board members present. Okay, policy and personnel. Uta, it's your turn.
Okay, we had a meeting this evening. We did the first reading of policy 317.1, educator misconduct, and policy 824, maintaining professional adult student boundaries. They were updated to reflect changes in Title IX and including sexual harassment in the policy itself. This will be on the agenda again for second reading at a future meeting. We did discuss the daily substitute teacher rate, and given the potential change of course, we do not have any recommendations on that at this time. We also are going to wait to make a recommendation on what our until we know what our needs are at the elementary level, if we need additional teachers or not. We discussed virtual speech services through .com, which we used in the spring and received high marks from the students that received services through that. We talked about employee options related to COVID-19 with the additional funding that's available for employees if they meet certain criteria and need to take some time from work. And we talked about teacher prep time, and I think that was it for our meeting. Our first motion is modified from what is printed on the agenda as a result of a conversation during executive session. So it says that the board accepts with regret the letter of resignation from Rebecca Pizer, Assistant Business Manager, effective August 21, 2020, due to other employment, and authorizes the administration to conduct interviews and take the next steps in the hiring process.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second to accept the resignation of the current Assistant Business Manager and take next steps in hiring. Questions, comments, or further discussion by the board members?
I would just like to thank her for her service. We understand from the team and Mr. Cronauer that she will definitely be missed, but also understand that this is a good opportunity for her, and wish her all the best.
Okay, thank you. Mike, is there anything you'd like to add or have Jared add from the administration?
No, I think again, we appreciate her service and her leadership, and Jared and his team are working relentlessly to find a good replacement, and we'll be back here hopefully at the next meeting with some options for the board consideration, and we appreciate everyone's flexibility as we move forward.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Is there anything else from the board members before we take the vote? Okay, again, I think we'll vote in the negative. If you wish to vote no on this motion, please say no or nay at this point. Nothing unanimously. Okay, Uta, go on with the next motions.
Okay. That the board employs Joshua Hipple and Trevor Sutter as custodians effective August 11, 2020 at an hourly rate of $12 per hour, subject to a 90-day probation period and receipt of updated clearances be approved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Questions or comments? Okay, again, all those opposed to this, please say no or nay at this time. The board assumes that the motion carries unanimously. Go ahead with the next one, Uta.
Can we move up and can we move the agenda, please?
I think you still need to do 6.3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We did do 6.3.
Okay. That the board approves the following substitute list is submitted: the nurse sublist, the custodian sublist, and the security sublist.
Can we have a second? Thank you, Julia. Questions, comments, or discussion on this list? Again, we'll or nay at this time. Nothing heard. The chair assumes that the motion carries unanimously. Go ahead, Uta.
We are going to, I'm sorry, that a request for a leave of absence submitted by Howard Murray, East Pike Elementary art teacher, in accordance to Article 10, Section 8 of the Collective Bargaining Agreement, effective for the 2020-2021 school year, be approved.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Julia, for the second. Questions, comment, or discussion on this motion? Nothing heard. The board will again vote in the negative. If you oppose this motion, please say no or nay at this point. Nothing heard. The chair assumes that the motion carries unanimously. Next item, Uta.
6.6 non-traffic citations, that the board authorizes administrators to file a non-traffic citation as a truancy officer with the district magistrate when a student has been unlawfully absent more than 3 days or in possession of / use of tobacco products on school district property, and that the following badge numbers be issued.
Second.
Okay, Terry, thanks for the second on that. Questions, comments, or discussion on this particular motion? Nothing heard. We'll again vote in the negative. If you're opposed to this, please say no now. Nothing heard. Chair assumes it passes unanimously. Next item, please, Uta.
6.7 board policy, first reading of board policy number 317.1, educator misconduct, and board policy number 824, maintaining professional adult / student boundaries.
Second.
Okay. I don't think that requires a second at this point because it's the first reading.
Sorry.
But thanks, Cinda, for your stepping up right away. And thanks, Uta. I think that concludes your portion of the agenda. Terry, looks like you're up with the buildings and grounds.
The only thing I'll say is, and it'll be mentioned at the end, is there's a meeting next Monday, the 17th. That'll be the next Building Ground Transportation Committee meeting. That's all I have, Mr. Schmidt.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Julia, looks like Audit and Finance, your turn.
Thanks, Mr. President. I'm the same as Mr. Kerr. We will not have a meeting until August 22nd. Nothing to report this evening. Thank you.
24th?
Is it the 24th, Jewel?
August 20.
Is it the 24th? I can't hear. I don't have a calendar. I can't remember what. Oh, I guess I do have some motions. All right.
It's August 24th.
The 24th. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't copy off this agenda either. Can you move it, Randy? Okay. So I'm going to move that the current bills be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Uta, for the second. Questions, comments, or discussion on the current bills? Nothing heard. We'll again vote in the negative. If you're opposed to this motion, please say no or nay at this time. Again, nothing heard. The chair assumes that the motion passes unanimously. At this point in time, we're now down to the closing. Do we have any public comment on agenda items? If so, please indicate either in the chat room or speak up now. Okay, with a long enough pause, there does not appear to be any at this point. We did have some enclosures tonight. There was also an executive session at 6:30 to discuss personnel issues. Our next board meeting will be a special board meeting on August the 24th at 7 p.m. for general purposes. Our next committee meetings, as was mentioned just a minute ago, are buildings and grounds on August the 17th and audit and finance on the 24th, both at 5:30. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Julie and Cinda, for the seconds. And all those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Aye.
Hey,
Aye.
Thank you.
good night,
Board.
everyone. Josh, I'm here. Myself, Ron, Justin, Jared, and whoever else, Rob will be online. So whatever you need, we're here, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Obviously, things have changed since our interview this morning.
It
but,
did, Josh. Didn't I say that this morning when we were talking? There's a good likelihood of that, sir.
I wanted to ask Mr. Repack, the Title IX now including sexual harassment. So that means that all of the people who have to interact with children in the district have to get trained on this for as part of the Title IX law.
I don't know if Ron. I don't know if Ron is still on, so I'm not too sure.
Okay, I thought I had seen him on.
I think he jumped off. Let me double check though. I don't want to